Good morning. So when she was reading the slide and my name was not appearing there, I pinched myself and I was very happy. I was happy because I was not existing in the virtual world, but I was existing in the physical world. So all of us today live in two different worlds, the physical and the virtual. And I told her doesn't matter, as long as I exist in the physical world, it's still okay. What I'm going to talk about today, in the next few minutes, is about transformation in HR. And I'm carefully trying not to talk about technology, because technology is there all over the place. You Google it, you will find it. You will get to see how technology is transforming HR, how technology is transforming work, how technology is transforming workforce. So it's there all over the place. I don't have to talk about it. And Augustus reminded me about a Rukmini that I know of. And this Rukmini was newly married, and both husband and wife moved into a new apartment. After a few days, the wife said, "I will go back to my mom's home for 1 week." The husband said, "No, I will not let you go." The wife said, "Just 1 week." The husband said, "Okay, go for 1 week." So she went. She didn't come back after 1 week. Those days we did not have those mobile phones and all that. So the husband wrote a letter, and wife replied, "1 more week, please." And 1 more week passed. The wife didn't come back. The husband was desperate, sent a telegram, "When are you coming back?" In return, there was another telegram which said, "1 more week, please." Then the husband sent another telegram saying, "Now that Padmini is here, you can stay back at home as long as you want to stay here. And whenever you want to come back, you can come back." The next morning, early in the morning, the husband had just woken up. He got to hear a tap on the door. He went out, opened the door, and then he found Rukmini standing outside with a broomstick in her hand. "Where is Padmini? Tell me, where is Padmini? I am going to throw her out of the house." The husband said, "Go to the kitchen." "Oh," she said, "she has already taken the kitchen." So she ran into the kitchen. The Padmini cooker was there. So that's how, Rukmini got into trouble. But I'm really happy that Augustus revived her virtue and really made sure that she find her role back and then really get back on the road. So that's what is happening today in our lives, in our personal lives, social lives, and the industry. So if we go back to the 70s or 80s, it's the guy who was in the production floor was the most important guy in the organization. In a manufacturing setup, who was managing production, had all the possibility of becoming the CEO of the company. They were on demand. Things changed in the 80s and the 90s. It's the finance guy who became the important guy. The guy who had the grip on the numbers. The guy who had the grip on the financials. Who could predict the financials of the company. Became important, had all the chances of becoming the CEO one day. Things changed a decade later. In the early 2000s, or maybe in the 90s, the marketing and the sales guy was the most important guy. And with the dawn of the 21st century, it's the technology guy who became important. But I promise you I'm not going to talk much about technology. But the technology guy who could bring in the latest technology to the organization, AI, IoT and VR and AR and cloud computing and all of that, was the most important guy because technology disrupted everything. Technology, irrespective of the industry, ruled everything. Technology guy had the chance of becoming the CEO. Today, who is the most important guy? Well, the interesting thing about today is, today you can buy technology. If you pay money, you can virtually buy any technology that you want to buy and then bring it to your organization. But unfortunately, organizations have failed to figure out how to buy a motivated, inspired employee. They are clueless about it. They don't know how to get that, where from, where they can buy that motivated, inspired, productive employee. So if every employee produces X, and if you hire 500 employees into your organization, you expect that you're going to get 500X productivity. But what happens? But what's happening today in organizations? Organizations are managing 200X, 250X, while they expect 500X, 750X. That's not there. So organizations are clueless. We saw all the reports about engagement statistics all over the world. Only 13% of employees across the board are engaged. The rest are disengaged. So today, in this context, who is the most important guy? The marketing guy, or the technology guy, or the sales guy, the production guy, or somebody else? Who is the most important leader in the organization? HR, isn't it? Well, I did not hear a very confident HR. So only HR can make a difference. Only HR can make a difference, provided HR is ready for it. Provided HR is ready. So that calls for transformation in HR. That calls for biggest transformation in HR. And as we went through the industrial revolution from the steam engine to combustion engine to the age of electronics and semiconductors to the age of internet and cloud computing, artificial intelligence, HR also has evolved. But even today, HR is still struggling to find its feet on the ground and then be ready for the new era of the future of work. So how can HR make that transformation happen? What can HR start doing different? I'm going to talk about 5 things which are important. The five shifts that we need to make, the paradigm shift that we need to make, the mind shift that we need to make to bring about the transformation of HR. First one. Traditionally, when we recruited talent, we believed, will this person, will this individual, will he or she fit into our organization? That's the mindset that we always had. Will he fit into our culture? Will our structure? Will our organization? Will he become effective here? We need to make sure. Will I fit into that employee's life? Shall we fit into their life? Shall we fit into his or her personal life? His interests? What makes him happy? What brings about his wellness? What makes him inspired and motivated? We need to make that shift. Today we keep reading about statistics which says 3 out of 4 people in organizations are millennials. What are their interests? What do they want? I read somewhere, I got to read that millennials, organizations which have banned social media at the workplace, it's quite likely in such organizations millennials will not stay, not for more than 3 months. So do we understand our employees? Do we understand their mindset? Do we understand what motivates them? Do we invest enough time to understand them? Do we fit into our employee's life? Instead of questioning, does he or she fit into our organization? The question today, the shift that needs to happen in thinking is, do we fit into the employee's life? It's important. What are we doing differently to make sure that we fit into the lives of our employees? What about our infrastructure? What about our structure in the organization? What about the way we onboard our people? We induct our people. We develop our people, have you made a shift? The second shift that we need to make is from activity to value. Every time, many of you, I'm sure you would agree, you walk into, reviews with HR leaders, L&D leaders, functional leaders, you would find it's all about activity. I have seen HR leaders taking pride that we recruit 20,000 people a year. We train 15,000 people a year. It's about activity. We run an organization of 150,000 employees. It's about activity. We need to make a shift from activity to value. We talk about business impact. We talk about value in every possible conference and conclave and seminars. But the question is, have you really shifted to value? We still keep hearing about these numbers. The number of people that have recruited, the number of people you have trained, the number of people you have onboarded, and so on. What about the value? If you recruited 20,000 people, have you made a difference to the lives of 20,000 people? If you have trained 15,000 people, are they really performing with productivity, with efficiency? Are they really making an impact? That's what we need to start looking at, start measuring. The shift has to happen from activity to value. The third one, value for whom? Employees? Who else? The stakeholders, the shareholders, community, the partners. Additionally, we believe HR has to create value for employees. Because we are for employees. We are human resources. We are the people organization. People function within the organization. If we take care of people, it's good enough. But it is not good enough. HR has to think about stakeholders outside the organization. They'll have to think about the shareholders, they'll have to think about the partners, they'll have to think about the customers. And all that HR strategy has to be designed not just from an inside view, also from an outside perspective. That is important. Our reward and recognition strategy, the R&M strategy, should not just be focused on employee performance. It has to be focused on employee performance, which makes a difference to the customer, to our stakeholders. It's not just about becoming an employer of choice, but it's also about becoming an employer of choice, employer of people who make an impact for the customer. All our metrics need to be impacted. All our strategies need to be impacted, which means we need to understand the expectations of our customers. We need to understand the expectations of our stakeholders. We need to understand the expectations of our suppliers. We need to understand the expectations of our partners. We need to understand the expectations of the community. If you don't do that, we will always remain a frog in the well. We'll remain an internal function. We will not have an outside perspective. We need to bring in that outside in perspective. That's a major shift we need to make, because traditionally people believe HR is about employees. The next important shift that we need to make is HR all about talent development, or is HR about something else? Is our role about building and developing and inspiring our talent, or is it also about something else? Is it about creating great talent, or is it about something else? Let me ask you a question. How many times in a World Cup football tournament, the side which has the best football, who scores maximum number of goals in that championship, goes on to win the championship? how many times the batsman who was scored maximum runs in the tournament, the side that he belongs to goes on to win the championship. Analysis says about 15 to 20%. It happens only 15 to 20% of the time. Remaining 80% of the time, some other team wins the championship. Not the team which has the best players. Not necessarily the best players. Only 20% of the time, the team with the most talented players probably go on to win. So, if you focus only on building talent, is it good enough? Or as HR, we need to do something else. The teams that win is not just about the best talent. It is also about the team. It's also about the processes they follow. It's also about the strategies they have. So for HR professionals, it's not just about the talent. It's also about the organization, the structure, the processes, the culture, all that makes a difference. And as HR professionals, are we doing enough? Are we really working on the organization? Are we working about the culture of the organization? Are we looking at the processes? Are we looking out the way the organization has been designed? Augustus talked about the new organization, which is transparent, which is flat, which is on demand. Are we really driving such changes in organizations? Are we driving such changes at the workplace? Are we moving away from a hierarchical organization to a connected network organization? Are we moving away from a title and designation-based structure to a role-based structure? In your organization as a senior vice president, willing, ready, and prepared to report into vice president. Does that happen in our organizations? Majority of organizations doesn't happen. But in the future, we're going to see that. We've started seeing that already. Organizations are becoming role-based. So if my role demands that I report into somebody who's probably lower than me in terms of job level, a band, etc., so be it, because in a role-based organization is about the role. My current role, my current project assignment requires me to report into somebody who has the right expertise, the right knowledge, and the right experience, and the right technology, in the right space, and I should not have any problem in doing that. But how do we drive that transformation? It's not about building that. It's not about creating the best batsman or the best bowler or the best footballer in the team. It's about looking at the team, looking at the structure, looking at the culture, looking at the values, and making the paradigm shift. Can HR make a difference? The last one that I want to talk about, the list can go on, but the last shift that we need to make is enabling the leaders, giving care to the caregivers. If you all believe that we are the caregivers, we provide care to the rest of the organization, we enable the rest of the organization, are we doing enough to enable ourselves? Are HR leaders doing enough to enable them? Every single HR leader I speak to says very clearly, I'm struggling. I don't have the right talent. I don't have the right people. My management, my leaders, my CEO expects me to do more with less. He wants me to cut down my headcount. So HR professionals are struggling with bandwidth, with time, with investment, with money, with strategies, with capacity, with capability. They're struggling. And they're expected to enable the rest of the organization. How can we do that? How can we enable the enablers? How can we provide care to the caregivers? How can we make a difference there? Can we make a shift there? So these are the fundamental 5 shifts that I wanted to share with you. I probably asked more questions than answered many. But my idea was not to give you answers. My idea was to provoke you into thinking. Go back and ask these questions yourself, and then ask, what are we doing in these 5 different areas? Thank you very much.